You're listening to the Energy is Love podcast.
Okay, it's the time for the podcast to start.
So
Can you imagine if I talked like this all the time?
I can. And I'm just thinking, like, what are
if
the
I
signs?
was the type of person that would interrupt you and then talk like this?
Like me?
No, like this.
I'm an interrupter. I've
No,
realized.
you're not. I interrupt people.
I don't think I can do this.
What were you going to say?
I was like, you know those days when your brain is like on fire. Your brain is like, I can handle the things and the conversations, and you're like, bam, 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 bam.
Yeah.
And then you have the days of where you start a podcast saying, can you imagine? Like, I'm having one of those days. My thoughts, my words, there's not a connection happening.
Yeah.
And it's like such a contrast to yesterday. I had awareness of a moment yesterday. You ready to hear how like my brain was like bam, 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 bam?
Give it to me, baby.
Okay. Can only hear that song now. I was having multiple conversations on different platforms with different energies with each conversation with one person, right? So I was talking on Snapchat,
Okay.
TikTok,
Okay.
and Messenger.
Okay.
It might have been text. No, it was Messenger.
All with the same person?
All with the same person, all very different conversations with very different feels.
Was it our daughter?
It was. So we were bouncing back and forth because it was like, here's this one we were talking about, and then here's this thing we're talking about, and here's this thing. And we were doing it all at the same time. It wasn't like, oh, throughout the day we did here. Like at that moment, we were responding to each platform, carrying on different conversations with different emotions and feelings, all with the same person. And I'm like, man, I must be a super genius to be able to do this, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then today, I'm like, why is there sound? I can't think. Why is there like, don't make sound. I'm trying 2 words in my brain. So sound stop so I can words in my brain. I can't have my own conversation. Like, what happened? What happened? How did I go from like the super elite master communicator to what happened? What broke in my brain?
Sweetheart.
What happened?
I don't know if we're going to be able to solve it on this episode. Yeah.
It's okay. I wouldn't understand it.
It's quite interesting.
You could be like, here's the reason. Here is all of the things in perfect explanation form, articulation, all of that.
And it still wouldn't make sense.
And no, I would look up at you and I don't know, be playing with my rock.
Yeah.
Which I had to, like, I love this rock anyways.
It's a good rock.
But I had to get something that would stimulate my hands because you said I couldn't play with my pen anymore while we're recording. And I'm like, I need something to like.
Let's trade. You want to play with the cards?
I don't. I have lotion on my hands, and I know you, right? See, I caught that.
Don't get lotion on the cards.
I don't get lotion on the
Ruins
cards.
the whole deck. Then I have to go through and wash each one individually by hand with rubbing alcohol.
Oh my God, have you done that?
No,
you have, haven't you?
Oh, I don't. There's no way I'm going to do that. I'll just set the deck aside and move on to the next one.
And okay. Are you okay?
I'm very okay.
Okay.
So
this is my brain.
We have teased this. Sorry, we're changing tracks.
We are changing tracks. Yeah. Are we getting to the exciting stuff?
So we teased this for quite a while back in like February and the beginning of March, I think.
We might have been teasing it for a while.
We could have been teasing it for a while. And as usual, life just gets in the way of the things that you want to do sometimes. But that's not actually life getting in the way. That's like you actually just being right where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, I think it came when it was perfectly timed.
Yes.
You don't always need to rush for that peak.
Yeah. So the online community that we have been working on, like behind the scenes, is now finally up and available. So you can go join the online community. So if you go to the website, it's there. You can find it. Also, if you follow us anywhere, you can click on the link in the bio and go find it there and subscribe and sign up and everything like that. It's only $11 a month. And you get to come join us and hang out. It's kind of like being like if you're a fan of the podcast, the way to think of it is like you're joining a live episode of the podcast. It's going to be a little bit more focused than the podcast is sometimes.
Hopefully.
Each month we'll have a topic and then 2 calls that month. So 2 calls a month.
You get to jump on the call with us, like a Zoom call.
You get to come interact and hang out, ask questions. And so not for example, this is what next month is going to be. Next month, we're going to be diving into shadow work. And by next month, I mean the month of April, because by the time this episode comes out, it will be April. So
This month,
it's all about shadow work. And we will explore that topic on 2 different calls and within the scope of 2 different kind of areas. So the first call of the month is always going to be focused on relationships. And it's not necessarily just your relationship, right? Or the relationship that you're in with your romantic partner or your husband or your wife or your spouse or whatever. It's relationships in general, because they're applicable, like it's applicable across the board. And then the second call is going to be focused on the self and kind of the healing journey and self-discovery and all the work that we have to do by ourselves in a sense, and that inner work process that takes place. That's what the second call will be about. So that's the format each month. Each month, like I said, there'll be a new topic and 2 calls that you get to come and hang out and participate on. And then you also get access to the Facebook group. It's a private group for everybody that's in the community to kind of hang out, talk, and continue the conversations that come up on the calls. Yeah. So that's it in a nutshell.
That's exciting.
It's very exciting.
It's exciting. We're so
We're
happy
super
to
jazzed about it.
Faces and see your faces. I mean, you don't have to turn your camera on if you don't want to, but you can. You get to see our faces.
Yeah. So come hang out with us. You can go sign up for it now. And that's the commercial for the...
Was that a commercial?
That was a commercial.
Oh.
That was a commercial for the online community that's now available.
Suddenly I regret that. I don't
Go
like
to
commercials.
energyislove.love. Okay.
That was an invitation. That wasn't a commercial. That was an invitation.
Yes.
We're inviting you to come hang out with us. Come do our thing.
So
Share.
I have something I want to talk to you about.
Right off the bat?
Right off the bat. This will be the thing that we talk about on this episode.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Do I need to get serious? Is it my serious hat? Did I wear my right glasses?
We can definitely get serious with this.
Okay.
But
is it not a serious thing?
so we talk all the time about inner child healing and like the reparenting process. And there's like this is all my stuff that I'm talking about right now, right?
Okay.
I'm trying to navigate between the space of being a mature adult. Like I'm here, I'm an adult, I'm doing all the adult things, right?
Yes.
Like we have children, we have a house, we have, like, this is adults.
Yes, we are adults.
And I don't feel like one.
Yeah.
And I also think it's really important to like maintain some sense of childlike behavior, thought, energy kind of in my space, right?
Yes.
So this is kind of my view of what I see as a big issue. Like I want to speak about it from the perspective of men.
Okay.
And I want to see if you can kind of relate to it as a woman and if you think that women struggle in this space as well. Okay.
Okay. That's okay.
And of course we can separate gender from it. Like every time we talk about gender and we throw it into this binary situation, right? It's just to give it context for the conversation. And I suppose we can, we really need to stop giving it context as masculine and feminine or male and female.
we can, yeah, male and female definitely no. But masculine and feminine, like presenting energies or stronger energies. Like I'm definitely more, I don't know. Anyways, let's see. How could we do this?
I don't know if
coming
I don't want to get sidetracked.
Well, we're trying. We're sure trying. So just try and follow with us with how you identify, and then like I'll give my perspective from what I can identify with, and you'll give yours from yours, and how it relates to you. You get to join us on the journey, and
so there's this perspective I think that gets not shared, but like the view of society. There's a very common judgment or criticism of men that they don't grow up.
Yes, there is.
Right?
Very.
Where men will be that immature person that they were like when they were in high school. So the thought process is that they just never grow up, right? That's why you see men like Leonardo DiCaprio that's dating 20-year-olds or whatever, right? Like they stay stuck in that space from when they were in high school, and then they just never really mature. And that's across the board with like their actions and behaviors, their emotions, all these kind of different things. So men will always be, not men will always be men, but like they'll always be boys in a sense, and they'll behave.
Is the stereotype.
Yeah. And then you have like men that come into this point of life where they get close to like the midlife crisis time period, right? Late 30s, early 40s, and they start questioning things. And some men will kind of lean heavily back into that space with like, I mean, like the stereotype is like they get the sports car or something like that. They're trying to reclaim some aspect of their youth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it gets perceived and viewed as like toxic and unhealthy. And I mean, it's got a negative connotation and association to it.
It can be.
It can be.
Yeah.
So this was the thought that I was trying to formulate as I've been sitting with this, is it's like, how do we balance that toxicity surrounding that kind of perspective that gets portrayed in society and culture and is, is definitely justified at times, with what I brought up at the beginning of like, trying to heal the inner child and trying to reclaim it and trying to embrace it and trying to love it and trying to embody it so that you kind of maintain that type of childlike, joy and happiness, and not even naivety, but like just that childlike nature throughout the rest of your life.
Okay.
So that's kind of the question that I'm posing.
Okay.
Is, first off, did it make sense, what I was trying to say?
It does.
Okay.
I have a different point of view.
Oh, I'd like to hear that. So it makes sense.
Yes.
And then I also want you to speak on it from the perspective of women.
Okay.
And whether or not in some way do you think that, because it doesn't get portrayed that way for women.
Right. Men have them and women
right.
don't.
Women are almost like portrayed as the responsible ones that aren't, they have to like.
Anyways, we'll stick one thing at a time.
Okay.
No.
So what's your perspective or your different thought on it?
I think those are two very different energies. I don't think one has anything to do with the other.
What do you mean?
With the perceived midlife crisis and childlike, like embracing, like having, still wanting play in your life. I think they're two very different things.
Okay. I agree.
Agree.
I'm just it's how do we, because I
didn't understand the question.
Maybe I didn't ask a question either.
I'm trying really hard.
Me too.
Okay. Well, try asking it again. I would love to understand what you're asking.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a question here other than just like
I'm doing my best. Will you try help me understand your...
Let me see if I can get to it from like the process that I'm in right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is this massive, like it's not just accountability, but it's discipline. I'm trying to embrace this. Like I have, this is going to be, throat is shutting down. I don't want to talk about this.
Do you want to hold the blue lace agate?
I don't want to hold your blue lace agate.
It's for your throat.
Agate.
Agate.
I realized that I have been massively immature over the course of my adult life. And this is a judgment on myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm viewing my behaviors and my actions. And it's in the smallest of ways where it's like, I will be upset and hold resentment because you aren't doing something for me, or like right now our garbage needs to be taken out, right? And obviously we've made that a responsibility of our son, and most weeks he doesn't really uphold that, and this isn't the conversation about how we're sucking at being parents and holding our kid accountable, but it's like in my head I'm frustrated that I have to take the garbage out, and then I have like all of this, not resentment, but like internalized, like it feels like I'm a child, like it feels like I'm this spoiled little brat that's like, I feel like our son actually probably feels in some ways. So it's like, I don't want to have to take the garbage out. Like, that's not my job. That's not my responsibility. And then it's like, what is your responsibility then? Well, I do whatever I want to do. Like this internal dialogue that goes on in my head, right? And I completely recognize from like the adult version that I am that obviously that's really immature behavior on my part. And like the responsible thing is just simply like acknowledging that sometimes I take the garbage out, sometimes you take the garbage out, sometimes the kid whose job it is to take the garbage out takes the garbage out, and all of it's okay. It's not that big of a deal, right? I don't need to have any of this resentment or frustration, or even just like, well, I don't want to do that type feeling. So I'm continually butting up against, like, that's just one small example, but it happens in a bunch of different ways where it's like life is asking of me to show up and take responsibility for it. It's like, here's my life and here's what I want in life. And in order for that to happen, I have to be accountable to it, and I have to show up for it responsibly with like dedication and discipline and like doing the things that I don't want to do, right? And right along in conjunction with that, I have this other part of me that's like, I don't want to do that. And it's like, okay, you don't have to do that, right? Like at this point in my life, nobody is making me or forcing me to do these things that I don't want to do. And the result will be X, Y, and Z, right? Like whatever it is, the result will be the garbage doesn't get taken out, or the result will be, you know, I basically don't do the things that I'm supposed to do, or that I am telling myself that I should do, or whatever the case may be, right? And then I'll just have to deal with the consequences of those actions, either way. But I can feel this thing happening inside of me where I recognize, here I am trying to show up and be accountable as an adult, and I have that other part of me that's right there along with me that's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be accountable. I shouldn't have to. Like, it's the silliest of things, babe. And I feel really dumb right now talking about this, because I feel like I'm like, somebody's listening and they're like, are you seriously complaining about these really, like, this is super stereotypical man stuff where like, I mean, like.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
It is okay that you don't want to take the garbage out. Like, not ever taking the garbage out. Like, I have two things I really want to get into with this.
Okay.
Because I have the part of me that hears you, and then the part of me that's speaking, right? So there's two different parts. But like, it is okay. Like, maybe this is for your 5-year-old. Like, it is okay that you don't want to take the garbage out. Taking the garbage out isn't like, oh my gosh, you know, I mean, maybe it is. Some days I walk out with the garbage and I'm like, oh my God, it's a beautiful day. I'm so glad I'm outside thing, you know, but like, it's okay that you don't want to take it out. You're not doing anything wrong because you don't want to take the garbage out. You're not doing anything wrong because you want the garbage to be taken care of and be taken out. Like, having these wants and these feelings, there's nothing wrong with that. Being like, I shouldn't ever have to, even if you feel that, that's okay. Making it so would be a different thing, but like, it's totally okay that you don't want to take the garbage out. It's totally okay that it pisses you off when the garbage is like full and not being taken out. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's so okay to not want to take the garbage out. Obviously, you're not alone in that. Like, it is so okay. You get to just not want to take the goddamn garbage out.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get to be frustrated with the garbage and the fact that our garbage company doesn't come and pick up our garbage. And so our garbage cans are full outside. And we're like, what the fuck do we do with all this garbage? Because they're not coming and picking it up. We're changing companies. That's what we're doing. But like, all of that is okay. Like, that's a healthy response to allow yourself to not want to do something, to like never do anything because you don't want to. You know, that's another thing. But to say, I don't want to do this. Yeah, honor that. You don't want to do this, right? You don't want to take the freaking garbage out.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. Like, have you, instead of like punishing yourself for that, have you been like, yeah, I don't want to take the garbage out. I don't want to. I
guess I have I have like the internal judgment of, you know, like,
how dare you not want to take
like,
it out?
It's not like, at this point in my life,
it's time to grow up.
Yeah. Like, I
take the garbage out, be responsible.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that big of a deal. Psh, who's that? Who's that voice?
I mean, I can't discern, right? Because I have like that voice doesn't sound like my voice, right? It sounds like my parents or my dad or society, right? It sounds like everything. It sounds like the voice of every other fucking adult that's ever told me to do something that I don't want to do.
Right.
And
making you feel bad for wanting something different than what they're telling you should do.
Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Okay. What else?
Yeah. Well, I think before, because I have a different voice, right? Because I told you I have the voice that's like, I hear you, that I'm with you. And then I have my inner voice that's coming up and being like, oh, we're going to talk about like my point of view, right?
Yes.
It's just funny. But like, I really want you to hear that. You don't have to feel guilty for wanting to play, because what is play? Play is enjoyment. It's joyful. Like, can it be hurtful to other people? Yeah, but you're doing something different. But play is joyful. It's enjoyment. And somewhere along the way, we get it crossed that once we become a certain age, we're no longer allowed to enjoy our life, but then be criticized for not enjoying our life. But then if you enjoy your life, you're being irresponsible. Like, you're allowed to play and have fun. It doesn't mean that your whole life is falling apart or you're going to drop the ball if you enjoy this life that you've created. I mean, maybe it can. You can definitely go light a match and be like, hey. That's not what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about having fun, enjoying life, being that playful nature coming. Why not? Do we have to be like miserable and diligent all the time to get it right? I mean, you can. Maybe you get enjoyment out of that. That's fine. That's your choice. But you don't have to make that choice. You get to have fun. It's not irresponsible to have fun. There are, where you're talking about discerning, there is discipline that takes place so that you can. You've been a very disciplined person. You're like, oh no, I can't. You're thinking of all the ways that hasn't came into effect, and all the ways that you haven't been disciplined, and all the ways that you have maybe slacked or half-assed it. Like, that's judgment and criticism that you don't need, and that's not your voice. The truth is, where are you right now? What have you accomplished?
I've accomplished a lot.
Without naming it, like where right now, what is taken care of? Not what is not taken care of. What is taken care of?
I don't know what you're asking me.
You know
like,
what
I
I'm
feel like
asking.
I don't feel
I'm
safe
going
for-
so fast. I'm sorry. Let me try and slow it down.
Yeah. Don't ask leading questions. Your
I know,
Honor.
but I don't
Objection.
I don't want to give you the answers.
But you have an answer that you want me to give.
I don't want you to give the answer. I am hoping that you are able to put some of this shame and not good enough yet down. So I am trying to like guide you to that in a sense without giving you the answer. But I just get excited and I talk fast sometimes. Welcome to the Zoom calls. It's going to go fast. Just kidding. Not kidding. I'll do my best.
What are you trying to get me to say?
You stop yourself from really appreciating how far you've come and what you've done when you are full of how you should have done it, or how you should do things in the future. It's not really seeing what you have accomplished because you're judging it by how you should have done it different. It doesn't really matter how you did it. Like, you have gotten to where you have got because you put in the work to get here. Like, you did it. You did it. Who's to say you should have done it another way? Even if maybe you were like, oh, that path would have been a little easier. Well, you didn't have that path at the time. You didn't see that path. So you're here. You did the work. You were here. You've created an opportunity where you get to enjoy some space and time. You get to enjoy play. You have a little bit of freedom. You go back and look back in your past, just yours, nobody else's, and how that wasn't always the case. And how people listening right now might be like, Matt, I have no time for that. And you might not right now, but you might. It might just be a perception that you haven't let go of. You've created a space where you get to take a breath and enjoy where you're at. And maybe that's 1 minute, and maybe that's an hour, maybe that's a day, a week, a year. Maybe now you're just living a life where you get to enjoy it 90% of the time. Why shame yourself and like deprive yourself of something that you worked so hard to get? And now that you have accomplished that, you have got there, you're not going to tell yourself you didn't get there in the right way, so you don't really get to enjoy it. Yeah, but I should have done this. Yeah, but I still have to do this. Like, what? You get to have fun. You get to play. You get to not want to take out the garbage. You get to have all of your feelings and show up for your life at the same time. I think you're doing a really good job.
Thank you. Are you ready to share with me your other perspective?
I don't know how to do it without making it sound. Yeah, I'm ready. All of that is valid.
Yes.
Everything we just went over is valid.
Yes.
And the funny confusion that happens between children in adult bodysuits trying to be adults, like we're in adult avatars.
That's the whole thing is I think we're
right?
just these, kids inside.
Right.
And then society says, grow up, and then judges the man that is stuck as a teenager. Like,
right.
all of those
all these
things.
So while we're talking about garbage in particularly, the garbage is driving me crazy, and it'll get to a point where I take it out. It'll get to a point where you do. But I get so nervous every time I do because you have, the way I perceived it, got mad at me. Because you're like, that's his job. Make him do it. Don't do it for him. And then you're over there, nobody's taking it out. I'm like, what do you... So how exactly do you want this to go? Just curious. What are we going to do? We're going to do with the garbage situation.
Boy, I don't know.
It's honestly, it's the only factor that's happening right now is the fact that we need to get our trash picked up, figured out. Yeah. Either we're going to take it someplace else ourselves and get...
Well, that's not the only factor at play.
Where are we going to put it?
We have another garbage can out there that we can fill up.
That is full in the garage. Is that one? Anyways.
That one's empty.
So from our child who's like, the garbage cans are out on the curb or out on the, like, to the street, and they're full.
Where am I supposed to put it?
Where am I supposed to put this? And then we have the one garbage can with a bag in it in the garage that looks like it'll hold one bag of garbage that you want me to put the bag of garbage in the bag of, like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You're like, there's this garbage in there. That doesn't make sense.
Tomorrow's the garbage lottery day. Whether or not they show up or not, we'll see.
Yeah. But. So this is just a problem that needs to be solved based off of garbage pickup.
Okay, so what's the underlying thing? Like, do you have the same part of you inside that doesn't want to, like, show up for life, that doesn't want to do, like, all this adulting and all these things? And then does that part of you get angry in some ways, like not reflecting, but projecting that anger out onto me as somehow I'm the adult that's trying to hold you accountable in a sense? Or
I feel very judged by you.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, sometimes it's anger, but most of the time I just feel like really bad and like I'm in trouble, because that was how mine was. And like, I'm not going to do that. It was like, and then being frozen and still having that defiant part that I'm like, well, I'm going to take this because I'm not going to give in. Like, that's the only way that I can, like, my child brain is like, this is the only way that I can have some sense of control. Even if I'm going to get in trouble and I'm so scared and it's going to hurt and I'm so scared, I'm still not going to give you what you want, because that is the only power that I have when I have no power. So I see that little kid trying to do that. So instead of being like, fuck, I'm not going to do that. Why are you doing that? I'm like, like a chihuahua. It looks like it's got to poop the whole time. Just all in my head, all my own creations that I get to try and breathe through. Not fun.
It's really funny. Like, I'm sitting here thinking about it now because, oh my goodness, we're projecting so much stuff onto each other. Because I'm like, I'll get into my head and I'll be like all sorts of like another one. I don't know why we're talking about trash so much. Because
they need to come pick up our garbage.
But
we're paying for it.
We have a garbage in our bathroom as well, right? The little bathroom garbage.
That I am the only one that takes out. Yes. I'm getting defensive now. I'm like, don't you get on that. Like, you haven't taken that out a day that we have lived here.
Okay.
Which I don't mind.
Let's do the best that we can to talk through this without getting defensive.
I just totally got defensive. I need to recenter.
Because I'm recognizing that what goes on inside of my head is like this defensive process of like, judge me as much as you'd like in this moment, babe.
Oh, okay.
Because you get to feel whatever you're feeling, right?
I'm feeling defensive, not judgy, but okay. Judgy hat.
Like, I have a perspective in my head that's like, you aren't taking out that garbage in the bathroom, and that's your job.
Okay.
And then it's like, my responsibilities are elsewhere. Like, it's not my responsibility to empty that garbage.
Okay.
Because I'm not the one really contributing to it.
Okay.
Even though obviously I contribute to it at times, right?
Okay.
And then like this narrative that plays out in my head is, it's like, I don't expect you to do the things that I'm responsible for. I don't know. I don't know where this, go ahead.
I'm the only one that takes out the garbage in there.
In the bathroom.
Right? So the problem isn't that like it gets to the top, it goes out. So the problem isn't that I'm not doing it. The problem is that I'm not doing it when you want me to.
I don't think it's a problem.
It's like, this just comes down. It's like, you have a time of when you deem it's appropriate for the garbage to go out. You have a way that you think it should happen. That's no, hear this out. This is okay. This isn't attacking. This is just like, oh, okay, here's some awareness here. And when it's not done within your time, it just sits there and starts to build anxiety and resentment in you. It doesn't?
No. What I think I'm trying to, like, I think what some of the core of what this is and what's coming up for this is, these are all external things that get highlighted when I am feeling dysregulated inside.
Yeah.
And so when I am triggered inside, or when I'm having some sort of like emotional experience inside that I'm struggling to process or feel, like right now, today's a really good example of like, I'm just feeling off today. I don't feel very good today.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, I kind of just want to be pouty. It's not to the extent where I want to be like totally left alone. Like last week I had a day where I fucking was miserable and had such a hard time trying to communicate. I just need some alone time, and instead just like got really angry and pushed you away. That's not what today is. I'm just feeling a little off.
Okay.
And when this happens, or not just in this example of like feeling a little bit off, but if I'm having something that's happening inside, meaning like some sort of emotional experience or triggered experience, or just my nervous system is not regulated, then external things will start to irritate me.
Yeah.
So then it is the garbage can that's full, or it is the dishes, or it is like the other day I moved the couch a little bit, right? I moved our recliner like 1.2 inches to the right, because the space between the wall and the recliner was irritating me, that it was too close. So all of these externalized things that happen in the world as I move throughout the day, and like interaction between you and our son, and like just relation, like the existence of life itself becomes an irritation that I direct and project this internal feeling onto. So then somehow I'm not processing. That's the problem, right? So I don't have the ability to actually like sit with and feel and process just emotionally, not even having to understand it, not even having to like label it, just to feel whatever it is that I'm feeling inside of me. Like I can feel, like right now as I'm talking about it, I can feel some stuff coming up inside of me. And what, like instantly I got this flash of what would feel really good is just to fucking cry. Like just a massive, like not a screaming fit full of tears, but like I just want to be able to like cry, just break down and cry and release. And instead of doing that, it stays stuck in my body. And then it comes out in all of these little silly things. And in order to like, and the narrative that runs, like the voice that runs through my head very much sounds like my voice from when I was a kid, where I'm like, don't fucking tell me, fucking that's your job. Don't tell me to do that. I'll do this thing. But it's not as like, I mean, that's kind of what it sounds like in a sense, right? It's just this very inflated sense of justification for me doing whatever it is that I want to do, and you can't tell me what to do, and all those kind of things coming up. But really, I think it's just this stuff inside that isn't being felt. And that makes sense if we think about, little Craig that had a whole bunch of feeling inside that wasn't able to be felt or, processed or even just, connected to, and instead projecting all of that outwards onto the world around me. So it makes sense.
Some big awareness is there for you.
Yeah, I don't really like it.
Oh, I understand that.
Yeah.
It's hard to have those.
Yeah.
I'm glad you have them, and I encourage you to get curious about them a little more.
Yeah. What came up for you?
I think there's a beautiful awareness, like you, like
I
feeling
know,
that
but
release.
you had a reaction.
I do.
Do you not want to talk about it?
No, I don't.
Oh no.
No, it's okay. I'm just like, I get to say, like, no, this one is. I'm just going to do a little self-care right now. And it's all okay.
Okay. Well, I don't know what else to talk about.
Right?
Because now I feel like I hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
And I know that I didn't, or I did. Either way, I have to be okay with it.
Right?
And instead, I'm just like...
It's so hard to sit in that emotion.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
Like, it's like...
You felt feelings, now you have to make up for them.
Well, it's not just that I felt feelings. It's like I felt feelings, which then caused you to feel feelings as well. And the interpretation is that your feelings have caused you to feel bad. So then the interpretation inside is that I have made you feel bad. And now I have to make up for that. And I have to fix that in some way.
So you feeling feelings has to be made up for.
Well, like me feeling feelings hurts other people.
So you feeling feelings has to be made up for.
Yeah.
You
like
feeling
I'm not
feelings
allowed to
is
feel
wrong.
feelings because if I feel my feelings or if I express my emotions, then it will hurt other people.
You feeling
upset other
equals
people.
pain.
Yeah.
You
And then
feeling
I have
is wrong.
I have to make up for that. And then it's like, yeah, it just feels really dangerous.
Feeling feels dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling is wrong. Feeling causes pain. Your feelings is something you have to make up for.
Yeah.
Something that you have to make up for and then punish yourself for. And make sure you don't do again.
Yes. Yes, yes, and yes.
That's a lot.
It is.
That's big.
I don't know what to do with it right now.
How I was going to say, like, how far do you want to go into this?
I don't know. I don't feel safe to go into it at all because I feel super defensive.
Because it's
the
feelings. What happens when you feel?
See,
no wonder you feel defensive.
No, I feel like all you're doing is avoiding. Like, we have to talk about things together. We have to show up together. We have to share things together. Otherwise, I mean, you have that same experience too, where.
So if you're taking care of my feelings, then you're safe. But if you're expressing yours and sharing yours, then it's not safe.
No, it's like if I'm going to share things, then you have to share things. Otherwise, it doesn't feel safe for me to share things. And I don't know what we're doing right now.
We're just talking. We're recording a podcast.
Yes. And suddenly I'm just like, this is stupid. Why are we recording this podcast?
You are getting some really
we are talking about.
We're talking about feelings.
Talking about
feelings.
No, we're not. We're talking about how men suck at
the feeling is that you just wanted to cry.
Yeah.
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 It's okay if you cry. Crying's like...
I'm not going to cry right now.
Yeah.
I don't feel safe at all, even remotely close to cry right now.
You don't have to cry right now. I'm just going to sit here with you. You can ride this out.
What I would really appreciate is if something would happen, like if we would continue the conversation in some direction, or do you know what I mean? Like something.
You just got to get out of this.
For so many different reasons.
Okay. Well,
like
you get to be done.
To just sit here in this space right now is like everything is way loud. Mm-hmm. I can't help but look at like the cameras and the lights and sitting here thinking like, what are we doing? This is so pointless. I don't feel like I'm actually expressing anything. I feel really, really stupid because I feel like what I was trying to talk about, I don't feel like we're talking about anymore. I feel like I was trying to articulate this thought process of like, I think there's some level of like the healing experience of growing up and becoming not even an adult. It's just like, it's connecting pieces. It's making like not just the past okay, but it's like connecting the things between think about how fast we had to grow up.
Right.
And even just the process of growing up. And it makes sense why people would not want to grow up. Because there's a part, like the innocence of childhood feels really good. Like the freedom to be free. I do remember feeling, I don't know if free is the right word. I don't know if I can do this, babe.
It's okay.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
You touched on some really big feelings and emotions, and you did a really good job. And it's okay to come out of that for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm trying to fill space on this fucking episode so that it doesn't just sit here in the space of me over here trying to like feel. And I know you're trying to like have your process and at the same time just hold space for me and my process. And none of that feels good right now.
Okay. And you did a really good job sitting that. We can move out of that. And when you do grow up incredibly fast, like there is that part of you that still wants to finish out those cycles. There's still like, you want to play, you want to figure. There's so many like things that you didn't learn, you just bypassed. You didn't get to really experience and like to learn how to navigate through or how to handle, you just bypassed. So when those situations come up as an adult, then all of those things that you bypassed, you never had those skills. So you're like perform them in the same way and they come out in the same way because that is how you learned how to deal with them. And so it's like really, really, not only is it healthy to go back and play and like and have all these things, but it's beneficial for you as an adult to experience these, to kind of go back so you can, like that whole phrase of reparent yourself through those, and you can learn ways to handle these situations as they come up, to handle these feelings, to find out where you're at in the space. Because it's like when you just bypassed it, you don't know, like you just somehow you feel like you got through life. There's so many times like, I don't even know how I got here, right? I just like did it. Like so much of it, I was just put my head down and bypassing my feelings, my emotions, like not even having awareness and clustering it all along the way. But I figured out how to do it. And now I'm here. And now I get to figure out how to do it differently. I get to figure out how I'm going to sit in these emotions and sit and not respond the same ways when I feel activated and afraid. And that doesn't mean like sitting when you are actually unsafe and being like, how am I going to do this differently? And trying to make it a process, like safety, like make sure you're safe and not going to be, you're not in a harmful situation. You can't reparent yourself like when it's a critical moment. You can just do the best that you can do. But when it's not that critical moment, when these things are coming up, like right now, I'm feeling incredibly like activated, and how am I going to like process this and get through this? And there's so many different ways that are, I feel like, are my reaction to get through this moment. The first one is to start crying, like just like run out the door, just be done, like, like I'm done, just like boom, Kool-Aid man it out. And like to not do that, to really not, I don't know how much I can like, where you at, babe? I can only talk so much. Like I'm trying, but
this feels so weird to me.
yeah.
This, like, I don't know if what we have been talking about is making any sense. Does it feel like it's making any sense?
I think what has happened is we have touched on something really, really big. And when that happens, like the way you described it, everything is really loud right now. I'm very aware of lights and cameras, and the headphones blasting my voice inside my own head is even more isn't helping. I'm squeezing like this rock with everything, trying to like center myself in my body. I'm activated, and you are activated. We touched on something big that brought up feelings for both of us, and it's okay. So right now, no, nothing makes sense. We're like right here. We're in full on activation and trying really hard to just like get back in that window of tolerance without bypassing the feelings.
Yeah.
And like, oh, what's true right now? And the truth is you and I are sitting across from each other. The truth is that we got very activated. The truth is we're very safe, and it's just you and I right here. The truth is this podcast, as we know, never has to be aired, and it can. This is just a moment. I'm not mad at you. Whatever you're feeling is okay. We can take a breath. It is always scary when we touch on big core emotions.
Yes.
Yeah. It's scary and it's hard. And it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish it didn't happen right now on the podcast.
Right?
Yeah.
There's definitely a different way to go through it when we don't have the mic in our face. And
I don't even know if it makes sense to people that are listening.
right? And they're not going to hear the whole conversation because we're going to stop at some point and they're going to be like, hey, what happened here? You didn't process through this. You're right, because this is going to take a while. Like,
I think what this is, like, if I can do the best, I'll try to do the best. What this feels like is like the inner child work of like everything that I was talking about. I mean, I don't think it has to do with how like society views things, or I mean that's an aspect of stuff, of course, and like the stereotype that men get placed into and everything like that. I think a lot of what this is in some way is like the realization of how much stuff I had to figure out on my own, or at least what it felt like I had to figure out on my own. How many things were like too big and too much to figure out. So then it was just like coming up with ways to deal with it on my own. And like literally like the development of those survival skills, those coping skills as a child, right? Which, like the internal dialogue that I was trying to articulate earlier about the silliness of like garbage and things like that. like in some way, I think because that's obviously ego driven, and that ego is keeping me safe. And it's all like in some ways connected and correlated to like not feeling loved. So then pushing away people who are supposed to love me but aren't, like internally within my head. And then like the repressed anger over abuse and trauma that can't come out and like safely in reality, right? I can't speak those things in reality. So then all of it just going on in my head. Like a very, very angry little boy.
It's not all in your head. It comes out very loud all over.
Yeah.
It's not all in your head.
What do you mean by that?
You have all this, you're like all this anger in your head and the stuff that comes.
Yeah, all the externalization of
like,
all of that.
It doesn't stay in your head. It's all over.
What do you mean? Like
all the stuff that you're not saying, all the stuff that you're feeling that you think you're just processing on your own comes out all over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're loved. You're not hiding it, and you're not.
Yeah. Trying really hard.
This is like really hard because we're like, this middle ground, I don't know how to do right now. This middle ground, I know how to get into and do work together. I don't know how to go to the depths because there's so much editing, right? There's things that I'm not saying because things just don't belong out for the public. So there's things that I'm not saying, but then trying to be right here. And it's incredibly hard with the level of activation that is coming up from all the things that we can't say. I need a break. Like I would be like, okay, this is where I need to be like, I need a break right now and I need to take care of my needs so that I can come back for this conversation. And again, like, I don't know how to, like we touched on something really, really big and there's so much unsaid that like, I don't know how to do this on the podcast right now.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and stop because we're not serving anybody. Like we're not serving ourselves in this moment if we're just staying in this half-assed place of emotion and intensity and like, and people listening are like, what is going on? Right. So, and maybe they're not even listening anymore. No, they're listening.
Are we like bagging this episode or are we just gonna be like, we got to stop because we have work to do?
Yeah, no, we won't bag it.
It's still going to go out there.
We'll release this episode.
All right. Well, active of how it can look at times right before your, I guess, ours. You have to.
I'm so curious.
Whew. You're so curious. And there's like, you're curious about what?
I'm curious about what you're processing and what you're feeling and what you've... Yeah. But we can, like I said, I mean, we'll just stop.
Yeah, I don't know what else to do right now.
Yeah.
I did I'm like,
you did what? So, okay, yeah. Let's just move on to the end of the segment, the end of the show.
because we have some work to do. We have some,
right.
yeah, we're in the thick of it. So we got to go do some shadow work.
Healing takes a long time.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of work. And even when you have like a really supportive partner and you're in a really safe environment and everything is really like ideal for it, it doesn't make it any easier. It doesn't suddenly become like fun.
Nope.
It's still really challenging and really difficult and really hard. And there'll always be more. There's always going to be work.
Right.
And I have no idea what this is all about. If you have any idea what this episode was all about, please email us and let us know. You can send those emails along with any questions that you ever want answered on the podcast to info@energyislove.love. That's the easiest way to email us directly. You can also reach out via any social media platform where you follow us and send us a message. So we're moving on now to the next segment, or the last segment, the only segment of the podcast besides the actual episode, and it's where we answer listener questions. You can submit those questions through those avenues that I just mentioned. So this week is, I struggle with self-esteem and constantly feeling insecure. What are some things that I can do to move past that? It's a great question. It's not, we don't struggle with those things at all, so we can totally tell you exactly what you need to do. No, I think the reality is that moving past those things, like in the sense that they won't always be a factor, probably isn't very likely. You know, I'm sure there's people that eventually get to that point, but the lack of self-esteem that you're experiencing, or even just self-worth, the feeling of insecurity, all of those things are there for a reason. And it's like anything else. If you really want to move past something, or if you want to heal something, or if you want to have something be less triggering or less challenging for you, then you really have to face it. So you really have to go into your insecurities and look at them. You have to feel them and you have to acknowledge them. And you have, like, I think the insecure feelings that we have, or the lack of self-esteem that we have, and the way that it continually seems to show up in our life, is because it is highlighting something that needs to be looked at. The reason it keeps coming up over and over and over again in your life is because it's directly correlated to an experience, oftentimes in childhood, that created those things, created those sense of you're not worthy of love, that you're not good enough, all those inner criticisms and judgments that you have, those have come from something. Those don't just naturally occur in space and time and then land. Those are kind of birthed forth into your life and into your experiences. And so you have to go back and find those things where they originated. And that's how you eventually learn how to move past those things. Because like just self-esteem in general takes a lot of different things to kind of cultivate a healthy, it's a healthy sense of your own self-worth and autonomy and all sorts of different things. And that takes not just practice, but like that's a process that gets developed in childhood to where we feel safe and secure within our own bodies and our own hearts and minds. And if that process is kind of stunted at any given point, or, you know, if there's traumatic events that influence that process, then of course you have to go back and redo it. Like it's a part of your journey that has to complete, like that cycle has to complete, that process has to, that skill has to be developed in a sense. Otherwise you'll always struggle with it. So you have to look at your insecurities and you have to look at the issues that you have with self-esteem and where they actually originate from. Otherwise, you're going to be dealing with them for the rest of your life. Yeah. And then as you look at them, right, and process them and start to heal those parts that were wounded and traumatized and kind of where it was all, where the ball got rolling, where everything got started, then that's when things get easier. What do you think?
I think a place to start with that, because when you're feeling it and you're wrapped up in it and you're going down like all those rabbit holes of self-deprecation and feeling insecure and all the stories that are in your head and however that comes through. It's really hard to be like, okay, where did this come from? When you are wrapped up in it, that comes from a calm place. So when you're finding yourself like spiraling out with those insecurities and limiting beliefs, to try and change your mindset in that point, to get that shift of the mindset is how you start to go about bringing calm. And sometimes you aren't able to access a shift. You're not when you're spiraling out. So try just stopping it. And you're like, how do you just like literally saying stop when your thoughts are going and I can't believe I did this and I'm like garbage for this and I'm terrible and how do I look? Like all of the things, just stop. Say out loud, stop. Give yourself that verbal cue that's going to help like whoom, your mind. You don't have to redirect any of it at that point until you've practiced, right? You don't have to change anything, go diving in, just stop. Stopping that story, stopping that spiral where it's at. And maybe even add for that, we're not going to do this right now. We're not going to be mean to ourselves. I'm not going to be mean to myself. And that's all you have to do at that moment, just to whoop, get a pause on that spiral. And then eventually you're going to get to where you're like getting good at that. You're getting good at stopping that negative self-talk. And then when that happens, you can start to reframe and start to bring in a different perspective from a calm state that's going to allow you that ability to go in and really look at where is this coming from? Why is this here? When did this start? How, like whose voice is it? All of those things are where you get in to stop this pattern from being a repeat and a constant in your space.
Exactly. Thank you for the question. Again, you can submit those questions anytime. If you want to email them to us, it's info@energyislove.love, or you can just send us a message on any platform where you follow us. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Hopefully you found some benefit to this episode. Again, we have launched the online community for Energy is Love. You can go to our website and find it there. We would love to see you on those calls. And just hopefully you'll have a beautiful, wonderful day. We'll see you guys next week.